There was a time when you'd have to sort of just sit and nod and put up with that nonsense. I don't.
Right.
And you don't.
Right.
And so I think that every patient that we talk with and work with should know that there is that fiery representation of them and their interests in all of these rooms now where we weren't before. And we hold firm until it gets to be where we need it to be.
Coming in, flex. I just wanna win, LABB, who we running with, 2233, I'm on 10 again,
Welcome to Coming In Hot, a discussion on health, opinions, and truths through the lens of culture and community. Today, we're going to be talking about the buy-in. Now, we know what a buy-in is, and there's a lot of things that we buy in. We have some great partners to join in on the conversation. I'm going to pass the mic to Donna for her to introduce herself.
Melody, I'm so happy to be here with you always. My name is Donna Cryer. I am the CEO and founder of the Global Liver Institute, and I am also a patient with inflammatory bowel disease and 28 years post-liver transplant.
Hi, my name is Arnie Joseph. I am the CEO and founder of Chroma Health Solutions, and I'm thrilled to be part of this group.
Hi everyone, I'm Matthew McCurdy. Co-founder of Black Health.
And I'm your host, Melody Noreen Blackwell. President and founder of Color of Crohn's and Chronic Illness, and an IBD patient. Now, between Donna and Arnie, there are years of experience in the healthcare industry. And prior to GLI, Global Liver Institute, you've had so much experience. Care to share?
No.
Okay, so we're starting foolishness early. We're starting early.
Seriously, as Arnie and I were talking, getting ready for this, I realized that the scars from some of what it took to get to this place for Global Liver Institute to be the largest patient advocacy organization in the digestive health space in the world.
Wait a minute. Can we actually get a round of applause? What is GLI? Can you share that again?
It is the largest patient advocacy organization in digestive health in the world.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But the scars to get to this place, I think, are in many ways deeper than the scars for my colon removal, my ostomy, my J pouch, and my liver transplant combined.
So what you're saying to me, honestly, is you know why our community is hurting. You know why there's a delay in buy-in. Because to say that you just gave us like a very high level snippet of what you've endured from Donna the patient.
Yes.
But Donna the patient still endured all of these other challenges as Donna the CEO, on top of still being Donna the patient.
Yes. And many times, I am lying in bed at night thinking, if it's this hard for me as a Harvard and Georgetown Law School graduate.
You better shout out those accolades.
No. I just mean, married to a physician. If it's this hard for me, what happens to other people? Well, they die. And that's why I created my organization. That's why you created Coachy.
Yes.
That's why we're all here. So people don't have to go through what we've been through.
Absolutely. Arnie, are you going to tell us that you don't want to talk either?
Not after that. Pass. Yeah, it's. Donna and I were just going through some of the horror stories, and the wounds are deep, and they're fresh.
Yes.
Right.
We were talking about things that have been said to us to our faces in the past 4 or 5 years by key opinion leader physicians, vice presidents of pharma industry. I've had issues with the U.S. Department of Health. Just it's been a constant battle. It's like a rocket just at first getting a mile off the ground. All that energy that needs to be expended to get it to break gravity. It's been like that. It's been extremely time consuming, full of disappointment. But I've seen that I can see the reason for what we do. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, or the great irony, is that those that are in power, pharmaceutical industry, healthcare industry, physicians, et cetera, a lot of them don't understand the communities that we work in.
Right.
They don't know anybody from there. They only see them as patients or as things to be operated on, what have you. And I'm not being cynical, I'm telling my experience.
Right.
And to get them to understand that it's the right thing to do to engage Black and Latinos and South Asians with disease.
Yes.
It's the right thing to do, yes. But from you need to look at the business perspective. Mm-hmm. So it's getting them to go past their, and I don't call it microaggressions because there really isn't such thing. It's getting their inherent biases and so forth. Yeah. It's getting them to get past all that and to understand from the business perspective.
Yes.
You need to do this from dollars and cents.
Yes.
We'll talk about the right thing to do we'll introduce you to people that have disease, and they'll make you bawl your eyes out, and then they will calmly say, and you think my story's bad?
Right. Yes.
So, but first it's getting them to understand the business aspect of it. Yes. But it is something that has been, I don't know if I could do that again. What I've done in the past 10 or 11 years, I don't know. But I am blessed to be where I am, and I'm thrilled to be part of this movement.
Matthew, my friend.
What's up?
I'm like, we have the OGs right here, and they're like, nah, bro.
Yeah, I'm like, should I continue? Should I keep pushing?
But you yourself have an organization that was built out of your lens, which is a much larger lens, and you decided to do something about it.
Yeah.
So share with us what you're doing and what you represent.
Yeah, Black Health, we were really born out of frustration with the way our school in particular talked about the intersection of racism and health. We found that Black people were often being blamed for their behaviors. Oh, you won't go to the doctor. Oh, you eat unhealthy. When we know much of our decisions are really framed by our context, by our communities, by what we have access to, and what's easy to access.
Yes.
Right. And so, and also the history of racism and the history of discrimination and bias in our country and how it exists present day. And so our organization is really focused on how do we bring health information to people in a way that's accessible, but culturally affirming, still fun, but also informative and truthful. And then how do we bring programming resources to them as well? And so, hearing about the challenges, we've been around, I think about 6 years, a fairly young organization, but still face some of that backlash about, we can't say racism, or, we can't talk about these issues. Can we frame it another way that maybe feels safer or feels softer?
That make people feel comfortable.
Right. And doesn't really address, the issue is that, people are dying, right? Unnecessarily because of the way we've organized ourselves. Yes. So we're really here to sort of fix some of those issues and partner with folks like Coachy along the way.
Love it. I love this partnership.
But here's the good news. The good news is that the way has been paved. So there are people who look like us now who are on the board or in the C-suite who can say, I don't really care if you're uncomfortable. Right. We're going to do it anyways. Right. We're going to invest in it. And it's not going to be in some siloed little DEI area. I always say that that's tacky. It's just you can't tack something on. It has to be integrated into the full thing. It has to be part of the core mission of the organization. And so you have the first wave of people, really the second wave, because even I stand on the shoulder of giants who are prying corporate boardrooms and hospital boardrooms open. But there's so many more opportunities now. And so they don't think that there's just, one of us. Now we've insisted that there need to be 2 or 3 or more.
Right.
And that's for your generation to step into.
Right. No, I agree with that. And I believe that that's why it's the buy-in is so important, is that when you have the leaders who are in these spaces and in these C-suites and our organizations coming to the front lines to say, you're important to this space. And I think that message is often missing. I just spoke recently at a forum. And one of the things that I said, we're looking on how to get data, how to get information. I said, but what you're doing is you're coming into these communities that are vulnerable, that were made to be vulnerable. They didn't choose to be vulnerable. And you're not telling them that they're valuable.
Right.
You're valuable because we need your information to even determine what we can deliver to you. But they're not being told you are valuable, you're valuable, your life is valuable, understanding your inequity is valuable, understanding your needs are valuable. But it's more so like, let's get our data points for this moment and then we're out of here. So then they're left again for more suffering, often worse than they were even when they were approached.
And there's no excuse for it now because they've been told.
Yes.
I know because I've told them. Arnie's told them. Our friends have told them. So there's no excuse.
Who else has told them that are on this on the stage?
You've told them.
Matthew's told
them. So they've been told. So there's no excuse for it anymore.
Yes.
It really should be about, and the organizations that do this well, as we saw in like Blacks Against COVID, the Dr. Reed Tuckson, and Deborah Fraser House put together, we're strengths-based. Asset-based with the right messages and the right community, right messengers in community, of community,
and they're goals driven. So like this doesn't meet my goal, so I'm not going to fund food insecurity. I'm not going to fund that nutrition education because I just want my medicine in their hands, but I don't really want them educated and advancing as a community.
Right. And we can't hide behind legal compliance.
Yes.
Because I'm a lawyer.
Because I'm a lawyer.
And I know. And I went to a better law school than most of their legal compliance and all their regulatory people went to. I've dealt with them. And it's no. So they can go take that back and we can write it the right way to do what we need to do.
Yes, for sure. Matthew?
Yeah, I have a question actually for, I guess, Donna and Arnie.
Matthew's scared. I'm sorry. She's got me riled up. Go ahead. Ask a question.
No. You have something else to say? Okay.
Like, wait a minute.
A lot, when we think about funders and partners and folks we want to bring in this space, I'm often conflicted about how do we align incentives?
Yes.
Right? How do I ensure that the things that I really care about, that my community has really sent me here to do, aligns with the aligns with the needs or the direction of the pharmaceutical company, the brand that we're working with. How have you all navigated that space to ensure that the work still gets done, but that funders sort of agenda also gets done?
I mean, you specialize in that.
Yeah. So what I was sharing earlier is they have to see the business.
Yeah.
And if they try to shunt you into the health equity, well, they don't call it that, multicultural.
The DEI bucket.
Yeah, that bucket may have a pool of resources. We don't, that I'm seeing that change. But I immediately changed the paradigm to say this is business. Pharmaceutical companies are not for profit.
Yep.
They need patients. So the way I approach it is you go zip code by zip code. If you're in DC, you look at these communities. These are the communities that have the highest X percentage or prevalence of X.
Yep.
You're not reaching them and I can prove that. How can you prove that? That's simple. You go to the hospitals down there and you see all the people with complications. They have complications because they have not been diagnosed. They have not been diagnosed partially because their physician is not diagnosing them. They have not seen a physician. But you, the pharma company, is also responsible because you're not educating them on the signs and symptoms.
Yes.
So that's partially your fault. So if you could take that away, if you can educate them through community leaders, community groups, cultural influencers, whatever you want to call it, if you can go through the churches, the houses of worship, what have you, they can reach your, I don't like to use the word target audience, but the focus, the community focus, and this should be your community focus.
Yep.
It's the same as when you look at the way that they approach some of these, with George Floyd, everybody took out ads. Everybody used a PR agency that had not an ounce of melanin anywhere, not working there, right? They come at night.
Listen, we've received different graphics from our partners, and we're like, we're a Black and brown organization. Why is your ad all white?
All white. So they don't understand. Nobody's saying you're not reaching these folks and you're losing money. So that's how you do it. It's like, we want the same thing. I'm looking out for my sorors, my frats, my bras, the people, my people. You're looking at people with disease, and you need to get them in earlier.
Yes.
And that's how we make it happen. And that's how I've been. Well, it's still an active process, so I can't say that's how I did it. Yeah, that's how I'm doing it.
I think that there have always been champions within these companies. We know them. I married one. I met my husband. I can only do that once. But I met my husband presenting on the work he had been doing within a pharmaceutical company. At the National Minority Equality Forum. And so there have always been champions. And so finding those champions within these larger corporate entities and finding ways to create wins for them so that they can get more budget, they can get more team, they can rise through the ranks. I've had people, it's like, give me your performance plan. I'm like, let me show, what do you need to get promoted. Let's get these things done, so that you can get rise higher in the ranks and be even more help. Also, now we've earned the right and have a track record and can talk to the heads of R&D or the heads of chief medical officer, or to the CEO, or to the chairman of the board directly. They often have a larger view of the landscape than people several rows behind them, and they get it, and they understand how the business interest and the corporate social responsibility interest and the goodwill and reputation enhancing interests align. And so talking to them is worth much more of my time than talking to
Agreed.
Becky Sue down here. I don't. My team knows I can't.
But why does her name have to be Becky Sue? Could it be like Jill?
No. It was, and my team has Fun Fact Brittany T-shirts. Because of someone that instead of coming to us and having our team who works with the patients every day, works with the physicians, goes to clinics every day, design the program. They hired the agency, and the agency hired the agency, and then the agency's agency hired an agency, and then they had us on the phone, and she was going to explain health disparities in liver cancer to me.
How did that go?
The audacity.
Can we play a clip of that?
So it went.
I can just see this.
I'm gonna stop you right there.
Exactly.
So what's your name
if you know
again?
Donna, you know.
Yeah.
That's not good.
So that's where I was thinking. Fun fact, Brittany, I lead the largest liver cancer organization in the entire world. I happen to be an African-American woman with extensive experience in healthcare disparities. I know you weren't going to explain healthcare disparities to me. I know you were going to do something else. Why don't you do something else?
Also have an extensive history in being Black.
Right.
Yes.
Gracious.
Yes.
Add that to it.
I'm from Connecticut, so maybe it's not that extensive, but professionally, it's quite extensive. No. And so, yes. So being told by somebody's agency about something that they just discovered. It's sort of like, Frederick Douglass, he's on the rise. It was sort of like that. But the thing is, I don't have to let that go.
Right.
There was a time when you'd have to sort of just sit and nod and put up with that nonsense. I don't.
Right.
And you don't.
Right.
And so I think that every patient that we talk with and work with should know that there is that fiery representation of them and their interests in all of these rooms now where we weren't before. And we hold firm until it gets to be where we need it to be.
You said something. You want to go ahead, Matt?
I'm going to ask you a question.
Oh.
Yeah.
She's the interviewer.
No. We'll put her on the spot.
Okay.
That's how it's done.
Because
the script.
Because I think you should talk about Coachy and how you've really grown as a organization in quite a fast manner, and how you've been aligning incentives as well, how you're convincing other companies to come on board, and oftentimes fighting with companies on behalf of your community. I think it's really important.
Sure, absolutely. What's funny is we're now in the groove of our podcast, and I just keep trying to like minimize Coachy. I'm like, Coachy's great.
No, this is a Coachy podcast.
But Coachy is only 3 years old. Shout out to our birthday last week, right? We turned 3 years old. And in under 3 years, we had been a multi-million-dollar organization for 2 years. That's a tremendous blessing. And you know that it took me almost 30 years to be diagnosed. And it started from just sharing my story. You know, we started with me being authentic and genuine. Right. And I had no idea that this is where things were going, but I knew that God wanted me to share. I'm heavily committed to my faith, and I'm heavily impacted to move because of my faith. And I knew that I had to share what I was going through because it did not sound like a gut disease. All those symptoms that I had, all those challenges, that did not sound like stomach ache. And I knew that most people only associated these diseases with going to the bathroom too much or just not going at all. Yep. And I was like, newsflash, there's a lot more going on here. And now I've got some comorbidities. Now I'm trying to juggle through the struggle. Like when people say the struggle is real, I don't really think you can know that the struggle is real unless you have all these challenges, and then you're Black, and then you're navigating family. And it's like, no, that is really the struggle because it's so many things that keeps building up. And although, you know, it's subjective, it's relative to where we are in our lives, this struggle was probably the realest struggle that I had ever experienced. I think my real struggles were like, what pairs of shoes do I wear? This one or that one? Am I gonna wear the jacket or am I just rock a tank top? You know, like those were the struggles because I was in a space where I could have a well-regarded physician. So I could go to a place that was state of the art. I had great health insurance. I could convey what was going on with me. So health never seemed like a challenge in my world or my realm. I'd seen it in other people's wheelhouse, like my mom and all she was managing, but she was always going to the doctor. So it's not like she didn't have an access. I didn't even know what an access issue or a barrier was until Coachy. I didn't even know that I had been through the cycle of step therapy until Coachy. And it took building Coachy to say, not we shall overcome, we will overcome, we are overcoming. Right. And that was just the message. And then even in me sharing it, you said something. So Matthew, you even bringing this question to me, Donna had said something that I said, oh, stick a little pin in it. When you talked about they're being champions within these companies. They're there. There are champions. And I could tear up and I get emotional because it is the champions that have championed us. Yeah. They saw what Melody was doing as this patient. Even I remember reaching out to other health advocates and they were like, oh, just keep doing what you're doing. Someone will help you. And I was like, oh, you don't know me. Someone's not gonna help me. I'm gonna help myself. I'm going to figure this out because these people, my people, other patients are screaming and crying for help. Right. And the champions, they showed up. I always tell the story of, oh, it's a field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. And I like hear James Earl Jones like talking in my ear, well, what are you going to do now? Okay. And I can like hear his voice. Probably doesn't sound like that. But
I think that was a pretty good impression.
Yes. I can hear like, I don't want that baseball card. You know, I really like that movie.
We didn't mean to do it again.
I really like that movie a lot. But I stood on that because this literally is a field of dreams for other people to get wellness. Yeah. And so when that movie even came to me, oh, if you build it, it will come. The metaphor got deeper and deeper because it's like this space, Coachy, is a field of dreams for people to get their prayers, their hopes, their desires answered and delivered because they can now find wellness. And they also not only find wellness, they find value. They're able to share. And so our organization is we're putting people in front of industry for them to see, this is what I've navigated for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and never had the opportunity to share or fight it because I fought alone. My family didn't understand what I was going through, my friends, the social activities that I missed. And how do you turn yourself away from that? I knew I was sold to this when we were a Facebook organization, right? Just a Facebook group with people saying they didn't have money for their groceries. And I'm like, you can have what I like. They didn't have money to copay. You're going to get to the doctor, because I knew that I was the same girl that had 8 fistula, drains in my colon, lost my mobility, lost my hair, eyesight issues, urgency, 35 pounds lost in 6 weeks. Like, I knew that. I knew what it was like to live that. And I just want to shout out God for kind of speeding me through that process. Like, it didn't end, but he kind of like sped me through and got me out, because ain't no way I could have endured that for 5, 10, 15 years. And some people have.
Right. It's a blessing to be able to be healthy enough to advocate.
Yes.
Right. But I wanted to make sure everybody focused on something. It's not if anybody built it. It's if you built it, they will come. You were called to build this, and people come because of you. And all that you bring to this table, you created a new table. You created a whole new house around this for us, and you've brought just marketing flair and energy and just glamour and fashion and business savvy. You have just turned this upside down. That it's just a joy to watch everything that you've brought from all the different parts of your life to this place, to advocacy, to put your own spin on it, and to deliver it in a way that frankly nobody has ever seen before.
Who doesn't like looking good though? And that's normally taken away from us because we're managing these devices, or ostomy, or a port, or some kind of IV, or we want to still be included. Right. And that's what happens so much. And we just, we conform to hoodie and sweatpants life. We don't have to do that. There's ways. And as a society, we have to learn. As a community of Black people, we have to learn to be more welcoming and accommodating to people that are having these internal struggles that are now like, they're outward. They're invisible to some, but they are outward struggles because someone's not showing up. People always say, check on your strong friends. Check on every friend. Like, if someone crosses your mind, think of them and check on them, because we don't know what it is that they're facing. So I thank you for cheering me on, but also, you're saying all these things, but I'm only as good as the people that have said, let's partner. Yep. And I count you, Donna. I reached out to Donna. I share this story with others, but it's so funny because I reached out to Donna never knowing that she had IBD. I heard her speak and I said, this lady has got to be with me. I've got to be with her. I'm just going to send her this message. She has liver disease and, she went through this. Let me send her this message. I'm about to put her on game. So I looked up the intersectionality of liver disease and Crohn's disease. And I said, I'm about to do this. So I sent her this long message, and I'm telling her about the intersectionalities, and this is why we should work together. And I just would love to talk to her. And I could literally, in her response, hear her, now that I know her, go, because she said, oh, sweetheart. She didn't even know me. Oh, sweetheart.
That was in the email?
Oh, sweetheart.
Dennis doesn't screen your email?
I have it. Oh, sweetheart. I would love to connect with you. I'm actually the intersection of this. I have Crohn's disease and liver disease. And I cried because a lot of times we don't take the step to engage with strangers or people that we don't know because we live in a space of rejection. So much rejection.
We have to protect ourselves.
Yes, and we don't want to be vulnerable to this. We don't want to open the doors for someone to say no. I don't care if you say no. I'm going to open every door. I'm going to check, see if you have any peanut chews somewhere that I shouldn't be eating. I'm going to check for some salt and vinegar chips. I'm going to open those doors, okay? Wherever it is, because it's already a no without having you confirm that it is a no. And I got that response, but that's how I know pathways were widening. Same thing with Matthew. Sent this email, sent a message, how much energy he has. And he responded with that same energy. And I was like, I don't think this guy really likes me, but I really like him, so it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So here we are.
Probably no exclamation marks in my
No, you're like, happy to talk to you, period. I'm very busy right now, period.
That sounds
but
right.
I will get back to you. Would these dates work? And then I met with him and I was like, hi, I'm so excited that you're doing this. And he's like, oh, glad you're excited. Here's how we're moving with this space. Yeah, happy to take some time and think about it. And I'll get back to you. And I was like, wow, he has so much energy.
But I got back to you.
You did. You did. And here we are today. And these are real partners. And then, Arnie, I met you through a pharma partner. Mm-hmm. And you and I connected in so many spaces because you're like, this young woman actually knows what she's talking about.
Absolutely.
No, this patient profiles person's name shouldn't be Angela, but maybe Jaleesa, or maybe this. Like, change it up, because Angela is a nice name, but it's a little older. The younger, if we're going for a younger profile, we got to skew it a little bit younger. Matthew could go for any age, right? So it was the male, but the woman, I said, 35 and under, I don't really see a lot of Henriettas. I don't know if that's going to work. 35 and under.
I think her name was Loretta originally.
It was Loretta.
Yeah,
Loretta. And I was
my
like,
mother's
maybe like Melissa or Lauren or something like that. But I don't know a Loretta that's like
But it was
under 40.
It was deeper than that, Melody, because the whole approach that the company was taking needed to be adjusted.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I could say this publicly, I would use your life story and patient journey as an
Yes.
example.
Yes.
The first thing they would say is, well, those people, those people.
Yes.
Those people. I think it's socioeconomics, really. Have you seen Melody's shoes? Have you seen Melody's shoes?
Wow.
How is that relevant? They
Wow,
said,
really?
they said,
do not pan down to my shoes
they
today.
said,
Because
they said, literally, how is that relevant? You said so. She shared her patient journey, and you bawled.
Yes.
Have you seen? Is there anything about her that looks like she is a lower socioeconomic? So what is that? So where do you
Yes.
stand there?
Yes.
Well, I don't know what it could be. Yes, you do.
Yes.
You know what it could be. You just don't want to say it.
What is it?
You don't want to say it.
What is you say it?
They say,
you say it. What
I'll
is
say
it?
it's inherent bias.
Yes.
It is
Racism
systemic
for my other
racism.
people.
Yep.
And that was in the advisory boards came out. So
Yes.
it's like, look, unless you address that,
Yes.
you're just flapping your lips.
Yes.
And then you
Yes.
have to tie it back to business. And therefore, there are a lot of Black and Latinos and Southern Asians that
Yes.
are not going to be put on your brand because you have this bias that the reason that they're showing up in the emergency department
Is
is because of them.
Yes.
Right. And the key opinion leaders said that. All of your materials say it. Your whole strategy says
Yes.
it. So every time we would say, where are the people that have the disease that tell their story in the industry? They call patient ambassadors. Do you have a diverse, I'll never forget this, do you have a diverse patient ambassador team? They said, yes. May I see it, please? They sent me a scan of a book of all of their patient ambassadors, 18 of them. I said, you sent me the wrong book. They said, why is that? And I said, can we get political here? Oh, I could say, okay. They said, you sent me Trump campaign headquarters in North Dakota. That's what you just sent me. You sent me the Daughters of the Confederacy. Where is the diversity here is redhead, blonde, and brunette.
Right.
Where are your no one's ever asked for them before.
Yes.
That's what they said.
Yes.
No one has ever asked us for that before.
And they're probably right.
They are right.
Yes.
So we have to keep asking.
Yes.
And we have to keep putting people in front of them.
Yes.
I had to create my own organization to meet another person of color with my rare autoimmune liver disease.
Yep.
Wow.
We shouldn't have to create whole new organizations to
Just for that,
meet each other.
Yes.
And so there is a responsibility to make sure that the patient ambassadors, your sales force match who has your disease.
Right.
And it's a cycle. It's a really vicious cycle because we aren't participating, we aren't included and invited into clinical trials. It's approved with a label that has nothing to do with us.
Yes.
It goes out to sales forces with materials that don't have us on it. Doctors don't think about us to ask us questions or to
Yes.
prescribe it to
Yes.
us. And so as it gets the literature after article after article, in whatever platform you want to see it, says that people like us don't even have this disease.
Yes.
Right.
Don't even have these diseases. But that's because you never studied us, you never asked us, you never treated us to begin with. If you didn't look for us, you
Yes.
can't possibly find us.
Right.
Yeah, I want to drill down on that. We've talked a lot about buy-in from the industry side, funder side, but when we think about getting the community there, right? Getting people, you've all built, really great patient advocacy organizations. How did you go about inviting the community in, making it welcoming and a welcoming space? And how did you think about that as you were forming your organizations?
Well, I want to just tackle something that Arnie said.
Yeah.
All those things, although Arnie, just circling back,
Sure.
you were very fortunate with the company that you're working with, because they were willing to hear and then say, we trust this consultant. Because sometimes Black consultants will come in and it's to say we have a Black consultant, so there's enough DEI
Right.
that we don't need to take it
Check that
further.
box.
Yes, that's it. So I won't say who they are, but I want to applaud them, because that was them being willing to trust the expert that they brought in and make the necessary changes, because they are committed to patients, that particular company. And I love seeing that, because we can't move if they're not committed to us. We
right.
can't get what we need if they're not committed to us.
Well, you would have to build something like you're doing.
Yes.
You would have
Yes.
to do something on your own.
Yes. Now, to circle back to your question, Matthew, for Coachy, I just showed up like I am. Me sharing my story first, that connected to me to about 100 people initially for the Facebook group. I then said, well, if it's this many people telling me that they're the only Black person diagnosed or the first, because I can't tell you how many people I've met that say that they were going to save Black people from IBD because they were the first person to ever have it. I was like, well, did you save us?
Right.
Because I don't think you saved us. I think we're still just growing
From
in
their
this space.
point of view.
Yes, and I understood.
You help connect those dots.
Yes, because they're like, I don't know anybody else. I'm the first one in my family.
hard.
And we started, me and a volunteer, we started to I created this script. And I said, we're going to send this to people's DMs and we're going to engage with them, because sometimes it takes us time to even believe what's going on. Are you a bot? Are you a real person? I'm okay with that. Take the time you need. I don't have any problems with that. It might be 20 messages later before you get somebody, but I was messaging day and night. I would probably start messaging at 5 p.m. and then I would finish at 4 a.m. I would look for profiles, trying to find us, and tailoring the messages to what I looked at in people's profiles. I was exhausted from doing it.
Sure.
But I said, if I don't show them that we're here for them to talk to, because it could be as simple as talking about your hair. When you have IBD, you can have challenges with your hair. If you're not in a group of people that understand your hair texture or your hair type, that's important to us as Black folks. We want our hair to be did. We want our nails done, hair done, everything did. We want that, right? We talk about it in our music.
Yeah.
So I said, let me see if we can build a community of people, just a group. I didn't even know anything about patient advocacy, but I showed up authentically. I showed up genuinely. I brought the conversations that I knew were important to our community and to culture, talked about food, and it started to create a buy-in for people to say, wow, I trust this organization.
Right.
It wasn't until maybe December of 2022, recently, that I knew they trusted us, because they show up to our events, they ask questions. The group is so active, and we're at over 750 community members.
Amazing.
And it is amazing, so amazing. I knew in December when we had this webinar about clinical research and how we expand, where all of the advocates, I didn't say this to them, but they all said, oh, I go look in Coachy first before I go look anywhere else for an answer. Does Coachy have the answer to this? Is Coachy saying this? And then if they have a connection to me, I go to Mel, because she's going to say she doesn't know, but give her a moment, she'll get back and get me an answer.
Right.
And I was like, dang, Mel. And then I was like, wait, I'm Mel.
Well, because you've earned that trust.
Yes.
You've built that.
Yes.
One of the things that we asked the physicians, because we now have physician groups who are part of our larger Liver Action Network of community organizations. Most of them are patient led, but now some physician led organizations are asking to join and be a part. And there was a moment when we came all together in person, and I stopped and I asked them, did you realize that we patients were getting all of these messages directly from people saying, this is my lab work. What's my lab work look like? Or I had this, or this happened on imaging, or where should I go? And the physicians were like, I had no idea. I had no idea that people were reaching out like this. They're reaching out to other patients with these types of questions. And I was like, one, because you're not staffed 24/7 to receive them. You haven't created the structures that align with how people need the interaction. And so we're going to work with you to change that and add nurses and nurse practitioners and social workers and more, improve the value of having those staff. But
nurses
also
and social workers often left off the entire navigation.
Right. And so, and then peer mentors, trained and patients. And so I think that it came from a really talk about, the alignment of just a very real understanding of what struggles people have, what questions they have, what issues they have to navigate, at what times of day while balancing other things. And so meeting people where they are rather than expecting them to come anywhere to us. First, meeting people where they are, when they are, whether it's, Facebook or text messaging, until we can start putting this infrastructure in place, like Coachy now has with its staff, like I have with my team. But we're still, I actually canceled a trip to Chicago because I was navigating health issues and making sure that some people got the right peer mentor, that someone found the right doctor in a very rural area in the South, and I wanted to get them to the right specialist. And so, rather than go off and be on the board of the Council of Medical Specialty, societies and talk about DEI, I was like, well, let me do some. Let me do some. And so, I think that what's sustainable, though, is not Donna and Mel individually answering individual patient questions, but building the structures and models for a more responsive and more culturally appropriate system to meet people is where I'm so excited that we're going.
Agreed. Absolutely. Matthew, you asked us this question, but you're going into the community also. And one of the things that I've loved that you have been able to do is actually get into the churches and actually show up with, especially in the cancer space, but also in HIV space. How has that lift been for you to get the trust? Because I honestly want to be in more churches and we have some good relationships, but it seems to be like there is a gatekeeper that's like, no, we'll get back to you.
Yeah, I think churches are interesting because, one, I think they're really motivated to do good by their members.
Yes.
And so it's really about sharing that value. Like, hey, we're an organization really focused on Black people's health. We want to work with you to improve these outcomes. Here are some data on what's happening in the county related to this, or what's happening in the state related to this particular outcome. Can we come do a session with you? It's not going to cost you any money. We just want to talk to your congregation. And then we're actually coming with resources, which I find is really important. I think often we do have people who just go in spaces and talk and then leave. And it's like, I want to establish a relationship with you. I want to bring you a resource. I'm going to bring you a navigator.
You want to do what? Establish what?
A relationship. I want to be able to come to form this relationship over time so that, a year from now, we can say, hey, this member got screened for colorectal cancer. We caught it early. They've since gone into treatment and remission. And that's a win that we can celebrate together rather than me coming and handing you a pamphlet and you never seeing me again.
And so can you just put this in your pews?
Right. Can we just tuck that in the Bible?
Yes.
And so I think we have to find opportunities. And I think we've all said it, for real actual engagement, relationship building, and that takes time and effort, and people don't want to put in that time and effort. And so we've really committed And sometimes that means you have to start smaller, right? You
Yes.
can't go after 50 churches. It's like, we're going
Yes.
to target these 5 churches. We're going to build these relationships until we have larger capacity to staff up and do larger things.
X, for sure.
But the return on investment is so real and so vibrant of doing that, because often I hear, but it's hard.
Yes.
And
But it's hard either way.
it's hard either way. You're investing money either way. You're
Yes.
spending, time and
Yes.
cultivating. If you do it the right way with the
Yes.
right people, with somebody who knows something, who's
Yes.
been somewhere and has done something, then it's really not as hard
Right.
as you think it is. And it needs to be done anyways.
Yeah.
So I really don't care.
I don't think you really care. I get it. But I also know that you really don't care about
How
people that are-
hard, how hard it is, how hard they think it is.
Yes. And they're placing your people, our people,
Right.
in harm.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
No, I don't care how hard it is, because I
Right.
and you for sure have
Right.
done it while it's hard.
Right.
You've done it while it's hard. And
with a
while,
hemoglobin of
Yes.
8 and in high heels. So
Yes.
I'm really not interested in their stories
Yes.
of hardship or
Yes.
struggle.
Well, it's hard for them because they're
Right.
not genuine.
Yes.
Right.
Right. So
Well,
they're-
it's the goals.
Right.
This doesn't meet my goals, so I can't fund this program about.
You need different goals.
Yes.
But again,
need
you've got
better
to
goals.
you've got to shift the way
Are
they
you-
look
Right.
at it.
Yes.
Right.
Or that's a potential loss. I'm thinking
Right.
of a former client that was complaining about a proposal to go into a small section of a city that had, this is a predominantly white city that had pockets of African Americans, and that's where all the disease hotspots were. You could see it all of them.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So I said, what we'll do as a company is we'll go in there. I've identified block captains. I've identified pastors that are well known for doing health related work. I've identified physicians, primary care physicians, and then back at the academic centers, some African Americans. So we're going to go in there. We're going to do this. I've done this. We're going to do this. Well, that's so hard. That's so. No, it's not. I've done this around the country. It's can be done. It needs to be done. But from a business standpoint, if you don't reach this population, most of the people that have your disease are Black.
Right.
So
Yes.
I'm going to show you how
Yeah.
this is done. So no, it's too hard. It's too hard. So what did they do? They took the money that I used to propose and they gave it to an advocacy group that has no touch at all in that community. Done. And I thought from her point of view, it was too hard because it took her this long.
Yes.
Done. And I'm done. And the advocacy group is going to have a black tie event. And I'm going to go there, which she did, and had her picture taken. And I'm done. I gave these people money. I'm not doing that. I don't
Right.
know anybody. I'm not. So it's how the approach. We've got to make them understand. You have to do this from a business standpoint,
Yep.
or you're going to be held accountable.
Yep.
Right. So and then and we'll show you how to do it. But it's not hard
Right.
when they trust you.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's so many things that are hard that this doesn't compare to. Getting your law degree was hard.
Not for her.
It was-
no,
yeah,
no. Yours are different.
Yeah.
No,
No,
but
no,
I
it wasn't.
think that is a level of hard.
Right.
This to me is not hard.
That's
It's
right.
intentional.
Right.
You have to go and be intentional and strategic. You
Yes.
have to think about it. You can't say, well, I'm going to serve you caviar and then smash up Vienna sausages and say, like, this is what I did. That's not the same thing.
That's so fascinating, Mel. We're gonna edit that part out, right? So, I think your point is that it's hard when you don't have the expertise to do it.
And
So
desire.
you have to have the humility to be able to trust that there are people who are experts in every other part of doing clinical trial recruitment or market research or whatever else you are contracting with to do with inside a company. There are people who have this expertise and these relationships, and you have to trust those people to do that, to trust us to do what we know.
But I think what you're saying...
Instead of just, it's not, they discount it and
Yes.
undermine it. Just any old person can do
Yes.
it.
But
even
even if
though
a
they
person-
acknowledge that it's hard. I'm sorry.
I know, but I was going to say, even a person that has the skill set
Right.
in clinical trial recruitment, it's still
But they don't
not
have
the same.
this.
Yes,
They-
they don't have Matthew, they don't have Arnold, they
Right.
don't have Donna. So not even putting that lens that these communities take more more care, more love,
Yep.
more
Right.
presence to say we trust that this is an opportunity for advancement.
I used to be on speed dial with several companies just to rescue trial after trial for special populations, well after the fact and well after millions of dollars were already spent.
Yes.
Because they hadn't, because they hadn't, built in strategies and messages and material to align, to attract and recruit the populations that they actually wanted and needed in the trials. I remember talking years ago with the initial director of the National Institutes of Minority Health and Health Disparities, who would talk about giving grants specifically for health disparities to very large universities in places where there are lots of Black people. And they would come back to him and say, oh, we couldn't find it. And I asked him, did they give the money back? He said no.
No, because it funded the research.
Yeah, before we go too deep down the failures of clinical trial design, which we can do a whole nother episode on.
Yes, we can.
Before we wrap, I do want to do our Drop the Deuce segment. So again, we have 2 facts that you like, 2 truths that we heard during this session that are going to be really important, key takeaways that you want people to know. So we're going to drop a deuce. We're going to start here with Donna.
Oh my. So I appreciate the power of Melody telling her story.
Yeah.
As arduous as it was, as difficult as accessing that part of yourself to tell that story, and recognizing the power in sharing that story. I think that's one. And I think that secondly, Arnie's point about making the business case for this, needs to be underscored three or 4 times. So those would be my 2.
Agreed.
I'll give you one now and one at the end because I thought this was going to be at the end. Perseverance. You're seeing these 2 define what Paul was talking about in 1st and 2nd Corinthians.
Better bring that word.
You're seeing the value of perseverance.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why we go through the crap. So they both persevered through a lot of trials and tribulations, and then God flipped that and said, so now you're going to reach people because you won.
Yeah.
You won. So they don't want to hear from someone who's never gone through this. I mean, that's nice to hear from someone, but it's better to hear someone who has a heart-rending story.
Yes.
So it's going to be very hard for people. Like, I'm reticent to say, look what they did and do that. Well, you don't want that. I mean, they've been through the war. So it's, their value is literally immeasurable. Literally immeasurable. Yeah. She's tops in the world, and she fitting to get right there. Yeah. She fitting to get right there.
Fancy.
Yeah, she fitting to. Donna Cryer. I remember the name, but
right, exactly. She's in the footnote of the Melody Noreen Blackwell story.
Because
that's where I am.
What they went through, and now they can empower people, and that's how they were able to grow, because they've been through it. Right. And it kills me that this is an unmet need. That she was saying how people said, I never saw anybody that I didn't know. That breaks my heart, because I know for a fact how many hundreds of millions of dollars goes for patient education.
Right.
And not a nickel has reached these communities. Mm-hmm. So I would say perseverance is key, but to hang on that, to thrive on that, because you're put through these. I'm going to start preaching, and we're going to put a link to some donation.
I saw the foot move.
I just happen to have. We persevere for a reason.
Yeah,
right.
It's going to build something in us, but that's just us. We've got to go out and empower others, and the only way to reach those of us who have not been reached is through a peer. That's the best way. The best way. And to have a story like that, to have a story where I had this urgency, I had this issue, I went to the top gastroenterologist in the Western Hemisphere, I got diagnosed and I'm great. I don't want that person going out and telling the story by herself.
Right.
By herself. I want some others there too. So that's the big, for me, that's two takeaways right there. That's 2 deuces right there. Rolled into
No,
one.
it's 1 deuce.
No, that's 2.
Deuce is 2. It's 1 deuce.
In some languages, yes.
So you can't have a testimony without the test.
Yes.
That's
It's
right.
just a short version of that.
Yes.
Amen.
That's right.
Amen. Keep going. This has been a really great episode. I normally say, and thank you so much, but I kind of want to say this is to be continued. There's a
Always.
lot of fruit that I think that we can partake of in this conversation. So we want you to come back at some point. I'm not sure when, but at some point.
Do we have to dance?
You have any closing remarks this go around, Matthew?
Yeah, I think I like the business case. So I'm going to echo that. I think that's really important. But 2, what I've heard throughout here is you have to show up authentically.
Yes.
You have to show up in spaces and be yourself and your whole self. All right.
Yes.
Part of yourself is also, being a patient, but also, you had your Phenomenal Woman T-shirt on.
Yes. Yes.
So bringing all of that
Yes.
to wherever you are and wherever you're present, I think is really important. And that's a lesson that I'm continuing to learn as I go through this role.
This has been so good. And I want to just acknowledge that we actually have some really great pharma partners. We wouldn't even be able to be here or do what we're doing that are committed to understanding and growing and wanting to advance these communities authentically and genuinely. I can't even fathom how anyone would fund Coachy if they didn't want to do that.
Yep.
So I'm really grateful for that. I'm going to close out today on Coming In Hot. We will have more information and more things to follow, connecting with GLI, understanding more about Black health on our website. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you at another time.
Running through it with the young influence, adolescent presence, I'm succumbing to it. I've been giving yeses when I shouldn't do it. I complete objective, but the moves elusive, and I'm barely moving, but I'm still gon' boost 'em. I can't work on winnings when I know you're losing, so I with the winners and they throw the deuces. Guess I have to pivot, shooting the bazookas for the back.